Okay, let's go. Okay, Lech Yud Gimel, second column, bottom of the page. Okay, let's start again the Maamarim just quickly because we only learned a few lines. Better Maamarim is to understand the questions for him ask. Why didn't Avram Avinu circumcise himself before? Because he kept the whole Torah, even Eretz Tavshilin. So why didn't he do Bris Milah before? So he says, we need to understand the inyan of Milah. Because it says, it's not in heaven to say, Mi Ya'ala Lanu Hashemayim is Rosh Tevis Milah. Mi Ya'ala Lanu Hashemayim is Rosh Tevis Milah. And the end letter is a Yud Kei Vav Kei, which means Milah is even higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei. Okay, this is where we're up to. It says, you should circumcise your heart. Another pasuk says, Hashem will circumcise you. So which one is it? Means Milah. There's two levels of Milah. There's one, lower to higher, meaning what we do, what we do. We need to circumcise the heart. What does that mean in plain English? The level of tshuva, to in fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, and like Chazal say, Im Yisrael Eisin Tshuva Nigolim. If the Yidden do tshuva, they'll be redeemed. Vim Lav Ein Nigolim, because this is where really we're up to. Okay, then after Hashem gathers all the nations together, it says, then the pasuk says, I will bring you to the land. In other words, the Yidden first have to do their part, do tshuva. After they do tshuva, then Hashem says, okay, now I'm going to do my part. I'm going to bring you to the land and make it all great for you. And he says that's the level of Milah. Shalom Milah Milmata, from higher to lower, which is the level of Mal Hashem Lekachas Levacha. In other words, first we need to do our part of Milah, meaning removing the foreskin, which is, the Alter Rebbe explains, the level of tshuva. And then Hashem uncovers the concealed good, and he reveals the good. That's what it means, I'll make you even better than the forefathers, which is a level of Rav Tuva Shetzafanta. Not only is it good, it's Rav Teiv, an abundance of good. Because by Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was born circumcised, it says, okay, in other words, like this, the Alter Rebbe is explaining what is the Milah from Hashem's perspective. Hashem is going to do vehitivcha, rav tuvcha. It's going to be an abundance of good. What's the connection between Milah and Teiv? So when Moshe Rabbeinu was born circumcised, the pasuk says they saw that he was good. And Rashi says from the Gemara, what was he good? What was good? One is the house became full of light. Another thing that he was circumcised. So you see, the level of circumcision is a level of good. So our circumcision is the level of tshuva. And Hashem's circumcision to us is a revelation of good.
Right. Does that mean that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have to perfect himself? He was burnt to worship himself?
Very, very good point. Moshe, well, even perfection has to perfect themselves. But yes, Moshe Rabbeinu was born with perfection. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, like it says in the pasuk, Zaysa bracha at the end, Asher berach Moshe ish elikim. The Medrash says half ish, half elokim. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu able to get prophecy? Not they called the Nevi'im at night when they slept, when the neshama left the body, then they got prophecy. Moshe Rabbeinu was panim al panim. That means Moshe Rabbeinu's body was refined. The body itself was refined. The first level of Milah that we do, which is lower to higher, that's the level of Visarusa de Lasata, awakening from below, meaning our Avodah. Visarusa de Leila is Gilui Bechinas Samal Hashem Lekachas Levacha. And the revelation from above, that's Hashem doing Milah. And in fact, Alter Rebbe explained, in the other Maamarim, by the way, that the Milah comes from the word Mal, which is Maamalah, which is speech, which is Gilui. The Alter Rebbe explained in the other Maamarim, Milah is Mal Yud Kei. It's a revelation of Yud Kei. So there's a Milah, that revelation Aveda that we do. There's a revelation from above that Hashem does. V'nei al Milah Shniya Zeis. On the second level of Milah, not what we do, but what Hashem does. Sheyi alacha kibetz golius ulahach lekima teira kula. Then that's when the pasuk says miyala lonu hashemayim Rosh Tevis shila Milah mebchinas teira. This level of Milah that comes from above, which is after our Veda, the Alter Rebbe is explaining, is even higher than the level of Teira. Why? Because by Milah it says, Mi Yala Lono Hashemayma. That means we are going to go up to the heaven, which is the acronym for Milah. By Teira it says, Loi Bashamayim Hi. That means Milah is even higher than Teira. Ki al Teira Nama Loi Bashamayim Hi. Teira is Loi Bashamayim Mishin Ishpel, is the Mata Dafka. Teira, after Matan Teira, doesn't exist there anymore. Heavens have absolutely zero jurisdiction over Torah mitzvahs.
That's Torah on earth, right?
Yeah. Kamay, Gemara, famous Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua said, when there was the fight between Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Lezer about the other, whatever, different arguments that they had. And one of it, Rabbi Lezer said, if I'm right, let the river change its course, let the wall cave in, and let a voice come out from heaven. A voice came out from heaven and said, Rabbi Eliezer is right. So Rabbi Yeshua says, it's worthless. Leiber Shemayim, he is not in heaven. Heaven has no right to mix into this business of ours. That's why even when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Tov, everything, when it says in the Gemara, the Malachim, the Satan, all these guys come to Hashem and say, when's Rosh Hashanah? Hashem says, how am I supposed to know? When the earthly court makes it, it makes it. And then the Rebbe always brings the famous Gemara, it's a Yushalmi, and the pasuk Lakel Geimer Alai, that Torah controls not only God, the Torah controls physical world. There's a din, if a girl under 3, somebody rapes her, God forbid, whatever it is, her virginity comes back. Because it happened under 3, so at 3 the virginity comes back anyway. Over 3, that's it. She's not a virgin anymore. So it says, what happens if a girl had a birthday, and then Bezdin made a leap year, and now it's not her birthday? It says, even Lochaira, her virginity was lost, the Yerushalmi says, she becomes a virgin again. Why? Because Bezdin made the month, and therefore Torah says she unbecame 3. She unbecame 3, and therefore changes even the physical world. But Milah is higher, because Milah is Miyala Lanu Hashemayma. So he says, and therefore it's called Torah Savaya. We say in Davening, Torah Seshem Tamima, right? Torah is called Torah Savaya. But that's only the Safa Tevis of the pasuk Miyala Lanu Hashemayim. The Rashi Tevis are Milah. So Torah is called Yud Kevavke, but that's only the end letters. Milah is the first letter. So Milah is even higher than Torah. Why? Kishem Avaya, because the name of Yud Kevavke represents limitation, contraction, concealment. It's Yud is symptom. Hey is Pashvav Amshacha. Shaydei and Nimshachas Lamatis, through this, it comes down here. Torah comes down into Bezdin ruling. Avo Milah now Hila Milah Mishem Avaya. But Milah is above the level of Yud Kevavke. That is the Rosh Tevis, Mishem Avaya B'Safat Tevis. Alkein Hibachinu Simadrega Shemayim. Therefore, Milah is the level of Shemayim, which represents higher. And Yud Kevavke is Yud Kevavke, which is down here. Mahava, creator, connection to the world. It says not only that, it's higher than the level of Torah that fell down here. The Gemara says like this. Okay? The Gemara says that the Milah is greater than Torah. Torah, I think the Cheshbon is 7, 8 covenants, and Milah is 13. So Gemara says, Milah, it says 3 times the concept of Bris. And by Torah it says much less times. So by Milah, the Gemara says, G'dayla Milah simply means Milah is greater than Torah. Milah has 13 covenants with Hashem, and Torah has whatever. Here now the Rebbe is explaining, no, Pidish G'dayla Milah. What Milah are we talking about? G'dayla Milah, the Milah that comes from above. The Milah that comes from above is higher than Torah. In other words, there's a level of Milah that we do. There's a Milah that Hashem does. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining the Bris, the revelation of above, is higher than Torah. But our Milah is lower than Torah. Because the person sinned. He has to do tshuva. So there's our Milah, and therefore it says, G'dayla Milah, that Milah is greater than Torah. What Milah are we talking about? The Milah from above. G'dayla Milah, the Milah from above. He says, Pirush Milah, B'chim Milah G'day Sh'mayla Mata, Sh'yim El Hashem Es Levavcham, Lechein, Nechresu B'yud Gimel Brisis. Okay, therefore Hashem made 13 covenants with the level of Milah. Now what does this mean? He says, Kidduam, what's the union of a bris? I don't mean circumcision. 2 people make a covenant, like David and Yonasan, the famous one in Tanakh. You make a bris, or when the Friedrich Rebbe called in 9 Chassidim in Tafresh Pei Zayin, 1927. Yeah, bris made up son, correct. And also the Friedrich Rebbe called in 9 Chassidim in 1927, Tafresh Pei Zayin. He said, I'm making a covenant with you, basically, to spread Yiddishkeit till death. And the Rebbe said, I'll be the 10th, we'll have 10, we'll have a minyan, and he made a krisis bris with 10 chassidim, with 9 chassidim. And he says, what's the inyan of a bris? L'mayla min ha-seichel v'adas. Bris is illogical. Meaning like this, he's going to say, in a relationship between 2 people, if everything's good, you don't need a bris. You don't need a covenant. Everything's good. What's the purpose of a bris? When things go sour, when things turn south, then what does the bris accomplish? That even then, even though logically you shouldn't be friends anymore, you shouldn't be married anymore, whatever it is, it still stays together because it's above seichel. The Rabbi zoyavim she'eis increases bris liyas oyavim zeh lozeh, that they become friends to each other. Hainu sheyuch liyas oyavim, they have to be his friend. Af lo nimshach etzlei. Even though by nature the love shouldn't exist because they got into a fight or whatever. It comes to a level of ava, like we were doing last night in Tanya, that there's a level of the nefesh habamis which is completely covered, and therefore the Rosh sins. But when push comes to shove, there's this level of the neshama which is above seichel, he says. The ava mesuteres, which is hidden in every single Jew, that level is so above seichel that even when seichel says it shouldn't be, it happens anyway. Like we said last night, the Friedrich Rebbe said, Mesiras Nefesh means azei unit anders. This is the way it's going to be, and not any different. There's no rationale, there's no logic, there's no seichel, there's nothing. This is the way it's going to be, and that's it. Whether it makes sense, it doesn't make sense, because once it makes sense, it's not Mesiras Nefesh. That's where you learned that there's no reason in Torah for Mesiras Nefesh, because Mesiras Nefesh is not logical. So you can't have a reason for something illogical. Because if you do, then it's not. Then it's logical. And therefore, v'kar kadeli is gilam shochem b'chinas milah gedala, which is ma'avtucha, is through the level yud gimel midas harachmi shelamayla mi'achochma v'aseichel. The Alter Rebbe is explaining now why does Milah have 13 bris? Why it's 13? Because Milah is the level yud gimel midas harachmi. The yud gimel midas harachmim is higher than Atzilus. It cleanses what you messed up. That means it's higher than that in order to cleanse it. So he says, that's why the Gemara says Milah has 13 brisin, because Milah comes from the level Yud Gimel Midas HaRachmim, which is higher than Seichel. He says, Shemal Me'achochma HaSeichel, Lekachi L'mayla M'china Shem Havaya, and even the level of Torah. Therefore, this level of Milah is higher than Torah. Torah is Chochma. Torah, you understand. Milah is not understood. And therefore, like we learned Monday night, what's the inyan of Yitzchak Dafka having a bris at 8 days old? Why not 3, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, whatever? Physically, you can have a bris earlier. The reason is because 8 represents L'mayla Min HaSeichel. 7 is time and place. 8 represents above Seichel. So Hashem wanted that the baby, the bris, the kavod, Yishmael had a bris at 13. Their bris with Hashem is logical. It's a logical connection. A Yid has an illogical connection with Hashem. And therefore Hashem says, not even on the 7th day. 7th day represents time and place, limitation. 8 is above.
I have to see one Shabbos.
You need